why visit an exhibition which is about clothes, fashion, at a museum? We're talking about Ashes to Fashion, which is an exhibition put on by the Ulster Museum to celebrate 50 years of rebuilding their fashion collection after a textiles collection after a catastrophic fire 50 years ago. And just that didn't particularly grip me as a reason to go and see it, but I did go to see the exhibition. I'm glad I did. I'm intending to go back, and I want to give you some reasons why you might want to go as well. At first, when I heard about the exhibition, I thought, well, it sounds like it's for people who sew or who love embroidery, or maybe study fashion, that sort of group of people. But actually, I find it particularly interesting for myself. Part of the thing that put me off a little bit was that it's based on the fact that 50 years ago the whole collection was destroyed in a fire, and it was a malicious fire. It was part of what was called the Troubles at the time. So someone had purposely set fire bombs on the premises to destroy and damage. Fortunately, nobody was hurt, but of course, many decades, hundreds of years of clothes and fashion and textiles were gone immediately. A whole history, which is common to all the people on this island, was gone. And they set about putting it back together. So, what interested me were the highlights. There's a whole wall of accessories which are fantastic: hats, shoes, handbags, which are brilliant. Also, there's an exhibition alongside, which is free to go to, called The Way We Wear, which is paintings and artworks which would have been with the Ulster Museum around the time of the fire. That is worth seeing as well, and it's free. The exhibition itself is not too expensive. I think it's about £8 for an adult to visit. And I just want to explain a little bit of what it's like. What is it actually like to go to the exhibition? Well, I went on the Saturday after the opening on the Friday, and I went because I was meeting a friend for coffee nearby, and I had extra time, and I popped into the exhibition really to see the free exhibition, The Way We Wear, and the pictures there. I was not disappointed. There's 21 pictures, and I was just excited to see another Bridget O'Reilly, which is optic art, which draws something to your eyes, and I was pleased to see the camera also caught it as well. And of course, there's the classic picture of Seamus Heaney. So when you walk into the museum, it's on the 4th floor. You need to be not afraid of heights, because the way it's been built in the Ulster Museum is there's a giant hall with balconies in the sort of atrium sense, but they've got glass and steel everywhere, so you can just look through the little wall running along your balcony and just see the sheer fall down to the hall below. To be honest, it's not for the faint-hearted. But anyway, 4th floor, I went in, and the place where you buy your tickets has been made into a very small little bijou gift shop, so you could buy all sorts of little presents. And if you have a friend who is into fashion in any way, oh well, you could get books on Chanel and various other designers. You can get lovely little decorations which look like they would go beautifully in a Christmas tree, things like that. But anyway, to the left is the exhibition of The Way We Wear, which you can view to your heart's content, and then you pay to go into the exhibition on your right. And when I did that, the thing you could see through the doors was an extremely large black and white photograph of a fire engine, which is not what would normally entice you into seeing an exhibition, and it gave it that real feeling of history. And I think that's what initially put me off the exhibition, that it was going to be all about the history of a museum collection. It was all just seemed in the past. But actually what it is like walking through time, because you have rows of all these models wearing different clothes of the different periods, and you just walk through time. So that might maybe make it a bit more interesting for you to think about. It has a light feel. The walking through initially, I thought it was really clever because the picture of the large fire engine, and then above it there were all these little supports which looked like burnt black rafters, so you felt like you were walking through, and the walls were painted this rich red, like on fire almost, so you felt like you were walking through the fire at the start, which to be honest didn't entice me in visually, but don't be put off by that. The clothes start soon. So you walk around the corner and then you see the one quilt that actually survived. Now it is astonishing. It is beautifully embroidered. It's called a Lennox quilt. It had happened to be moved to the Ulster Museum itself, and the fire was at Malone House, and all the collection has been lovingly and carefully moved to it, unfortunately, earlier in the year, 1976, when the fire happened. So you see this quilt, and because it's put in this glass case, you can walk right round it and look closely at it, and the stitches are tiny. It is embroidered beautifully, and it's well worth seeing itself. Then we have a collector who has donated tapestry embroidered chair seats, and also a casket of stump work, which is beautiful. And when you get to the video section, which is excellent, you get a chance to see those stitches really up close, because you're viewing them on a huge screen, maybe about 20 foot across, and you're sitting there and you're able to see this projection and close up to see what the stitches look like. So that's fabulous. So if you have someone who's interested in embroidery, they're probably going to just get lost in that section. But the rest of it, you get to walk through, and you suddenly see all these kind of clothes dummies in a sense, but set up with the clothes in the style of. And I think it's pre-Victorian. You see there's two together which look like Jane Austen. I would have loved to have an audio guide that was reading me a little bit of Pride and Prejudice or something to watch these two figures. And before that there's one which I think is the sort of 1700s, late 1700s. Then you have the Jane Austen era, and then you're into Victorian, and so it goes on. So the curator has done a wonderful process, because you can see this on the wall. The curator at the time decided, let's buy from now on, for every year we will buy one designer, as in haute couture example from that year, and then we will also have a streetwear, something that somebody would be seen wearing in the street. So based on that, they got compensation money from the fire, which was a tragedy and irreplaceable, and they set about buying things at auction, and also, just as I say, buying newer stuff ongoing, which is, the collection of haute couture is fabulous. It's really brilliant. Also, there was an application to the public. People were aware of this horrific situation, and they donated, and there's an amazing donated garment, which is a Chinese kimono, which was given originally to a doctor who had helped the Dowager Empress, and was given this garment, which is just astonishing and has been fantastically, beautifully, carefully mended. And you will see it in one of the videos close up. It's astonishing. I just spent a lot of time with it, looking at it. So then you have also got all these different models and different clothes. Now, I think the interesting thing about haute couture clothes is the detail. And this is where you want to see them on maybe multiple times even. So you'll see an outfit on a person, on this model, and you will think that's pretty interesting, but then when you go up close and you look at it, you think, wow, look at the beading, or look at the little trim on it, or there's something really special about it. You can actually get a sense of this by looking at a YouTube video which the museum has put up of how they carefully pieced together and dressed the models, the model forms. So I'll leave the link for that so that you can pick up on that, whether or not you can physically get to the exhibition. As I say, going into the video room where you could view the items in detail in the various films, including a film newsreel at the time of people interviewed as they were rescuing the few things they could from the burning building and so forth. It's wonderful. It's amazing because it's got these kind of chocolate covered fabric paneling, with low lighting just at the floor where you need to see where things are, so you're quite clear about where everything is. And then there's three large benches set together, and then there's a huge viewing space. And it's got that lovely feel and sound because of the thick padded walls. Whereas I've seen a lot of videos that are being shown and they've just simply used cheap black net sort of curtains around the area, which effectively blocks the light and you can see the video, but there's no absorption of sound, there's no sense of richness. So you just need to see it for yourself, to be honest. And yeah, I do think the standout for me was accessories wall. The hats, the shoes, the handbags, so beautifully displayed, just phenomenal. And I intend to go back and maybe sketch them. And this is one reason to revisit the exhibition, is to go and draw. Because if you have a sketching habit, if you try and draw for pleasure, you can have endless places to sit and draw something you know isn't going to move, but it's going to be visually interesting afterwards as a record of your visit, if you wish. One of the pieces I liked had little Tiffany glass in the chest, and it shone and sparkled in the light, which was great. It looked almost like a wee disco ball. You can see these little spots of light around it. And it was, when you read the description, it was done as a collaboration by two designers who both had children and wanted them to be protected like in armour, and this was their attitude, and it had come through to the outfit. So what you read alongside these pieces is going to add to your enjoyment. So let me think, is there any other way I could entice you to go along and see it? I just think it's worth seeing. It's done so very, very well. I have in the past gone to see textile exhibitions whenever I was in Edinburgh, and I had a friend, a Scottish textile person who was very knowledgeable, plus would sew herself, and we had great discussions at the Dovecot Studios. Dovecot Studios is where they do weavings, and you can see those from a viewing platform at certain times of the day, but also they do have exhibitions. They've currently got one about Biba. I've been to, they did a talk with Sandra Rhodes, which I've been to. I've also been to an exhibition about Chanel and later. And what was the other one I went to? Kay Facet and Quilts. That was astonishing to see. So I've seen really well shown textiles, and this show currently at the Ulster Museum lived up to it and was great as well. So I actually think it would be good to see for yourself, but it does have an air of being quite quiet and unmoving. To go with a friend will just double the enjoyment. So I hope you will go along and see Ashes to Fashion. And I hope I've given you some good reasons to go. Bye for now.